right, guys. Well, welcome back to Blitz Creek. It is week 7 of high school football. Can you believe that?
No, I can't believe that. I mean, we are that deep into it. We've got a lot of data points that either say you're a pretty good football team, a really good football team, or not so good.
So it seems like we were just doing coaches' interviews, and now we're in week 7. But before we get started, if you're listening to us, make sure to go over to YouTube, like, subscribe, check out the video portion. But if you're not and you're listening to us, we really appreciate you. But if you haven't liked and subscribed to us, we really would appreciate that. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Appa Bagworks, again. As we continue to say, he's making a lot of crafts. My wife corrected me. He is making singlets, which he has that fall print coming out. Check that out. He's got his men's wallets. There's not a big variety, but he does have those. He also makes some handbags, okay? Shoulder bags. That's the part I forgot. He has just a handful of those. But be on the lookout for those. You can also find those at Bohemian Grade, not a sponsor. We also would like...
They should be,
but they're not a sponsor. We also like to thank Andrew Scruggs, as I went blank on how I was going to say that, attorney-at-law in Bluefield, Virginia. If you need anybody for criminal work, give Andrew a call. He'll do great work for you. And then also, do we have to say anything more? Our big sponsor, Old Town Barbershop. And again, our barber's better than your barber. His title says so.
the belt.
Hopefully it don't fall during the video today.
I hope it doesn't for your sake.
Hey, we're both standing here, so. All right. So with all that being said, I think we picked the same on every game. I don't think we veered much, except for that last game, and we both picked it, and we both were wrong. So.
Yeah, well, I'll get into that.
Right.
I don't want to steal my own thunder, but man, I feel like someone could blame us for the game of the week last week.
Yeah, I feel that because I was watching that one and felt pretty good about it. And then Josh will explain here in a minute. All right, so before we get into this, is there any hot takes?
Well, I think the hot take from last week is I said if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the man made sure that they continued to be the man. Union was exactly what they've been all year long, and that was just a dominant performance. There are a couple of other things going across the state. So Thomas Jefferson and Richmond, they lose last week to Heritage Lynchburg, which is a 3A school, but they're used to playing, they were 3A, so they're used to playing 3A, and they lost to Heritage Lynchburg, which kind of puts them behind the A ball.
Right.
Now, because Armstrong beat Rye Cove and moved to 6-0, and they're getting ready to host Greensville County this coming Friday night, which will probably be a win, but Armstrong looks to be the real deal, and TJ needs to either get it together because they're hosting 5A Douglas Freeman Friday night. So we'll see how it goes. TJ's schedule the rest of the way is full of 4As and 5As, and Armstrong's not much different. So we'll see how it goes on that end of the state.
All right, so let's jump into this week's games. I'll start off with our first one. You have the Graham G-men, who just defeated Marion in the first quarter. It was 35-0 in their hideous, the only way to put it, hideous yellow jerseys, okay? I drove by, couldn't believe what I saw, but it's okay. They rolled in those gold jerseys, yellow jerseys, whatever you want to call them, to be 2-3, to travel to Pulaski County, where they're taking on the 1-4 Cougars. Now, the 1-4 Cougars, they only have one win. That one win's coming against the Bulldogs. And at that time, it wasn't saying much. I still don't know if you put that in the middle of a win or not. But when you're going to play Graham, who seems to find their footing, I don't really know if you said it against Marion, but they still hung 56 points on Marion. Sure. I don't know who's going to play quarterback, whether that's the Roberts kid or if that's Palmer. I don't think it really matters in this game. Both could play. I like the G-men in this one. 47. They're going to score 14.
Yeah. Okay, so Graham finally got that get-right game against Marion that they hadn't been able to get throughout the season. They had that opportunity against Galax. Of course, we get that forfeit, and we've gone over that so many different times on the podcast. The lights are going to turn on in Dublin, Virginia, not Ireland, Dublin, Virginia. And I think those yellow lights will hopefully be not as bright as those mustard yellow jerseys that Graham had. I mean, it'd be one thing if it were kind of that gold.
Right.
But this is more like French's mustard.
Yeah, and it was homecoming, and that's why they wore them. But stick to the maroon. It looks better.
Yeah, well, let's go with the road whites this week.
That's right.
So, yeah, they beat up on Marion. I think Marion might be one of those teams that's packing it in right now. And I say that maybe Graham's getting on the right track, but they still hadn't. Graham scored 56 points, which is more points than they had scored combined all season long. And I don't know if that's because Graham's getting better or because Marion's just done.
Right.
I want to know if that's an anomaly or not. I think this is an opportunity for Graham to prove that it's not an anomaly, that 56 points wasn't just a fluke because Marion's bad. It's because they're getting better and they're getting their footing, they're gelling at the right time. Because like I said last week, they need that get-right game, and they need to get right fast because they've got tougher games on the schedule coming up that are going to matter a whole lot come November. So I just wonder if it's an anomaly. That's going to be the interesting part Friday, because I'm not quite sure if the game is going to be as interesting as knowing whether or not Graham is back or not. Pulaski is a bad 3A football team.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bad 3A football team. They got beat by a bad 3A Christiansburg.
Right.
And we gave Christiansburg a lot of credit earlier in the season, mainly because we give a lot of credit to a lot of teams. You know, as you go east on 81, we give them a lot of credit, and we gave them too much credit. Christiansburg is not a good football team, which is proven by the fact that Abingdon has struggled, and Abingdon almost shuts out Christiansburg earlier in the season. I think at one point in the fourth quarter, it was something like 28-3, and Christiansburg tacked on a late fourth quarter touchdown. So Pulaski can't beat Christiansburg. They're a bad 3A football team. We'll see what Graham can do with it. I like Graham in this one kind of big, 42-14.
So we're pretty close there.
Yeah, we are pretty close. I want to say that it's not an anomaly on the offensive side and that Graham is going to score points. I think if Graham gets the opportunity to score points, they're going to.
So now we take the trip from Tazewell on the curvy road down a mountain into Grundy, where the 0-5 Bulldogs take on the 1-5 Golden Wave.
All right, so Tazewell looks to get back into the win column from last year by making the trek across Shorts Gap and down into Buchanan County to Grundy. This will be the last time that Tazewell travels to Grundy, although this will be the last time that they don't play as district foes, because next year as Grundy consolidates into South Gap, they'll come into the Southwest District as a 2A football team, and we'll renew those district rivalries all over again.
Yes.
And Grundy will have the luxury of adding in a few Hurley kids and a few Twin Valley kids into the mix. Let's be honest, Tazewell's not looked good all season long. They turn the ball over. They have massive amounts of penalties. The defense is opportunistic. They play really well, and they play really well for 2.5 quarters. but the offense has lacked so much all season long that it just wears the defense out. I mean, we've talked about it over and over again. When you're having to play 70 or 80 snaps a game on the defensive side, it's really hard to keep people out of the end zone in high school.
Yeah.
You just get worn down. I mean, you're talking about 2A football, so you're not talking about teams that have 50, 60, 70 kids on the football team. You're talking about 30, 40, 45, 50 kids. And so you get worn out pretty quick. And when you go from first team to second team, there's a huge drop-off. I will say this. Last Friday night, I want to give kudos to Tazewell for a gutty, hard-fought loss. I mean, we're looking at moral victories. They gave Virginia High everything they wanted.
Quarterback went 5 for 6 for 70-some yards. No interceptions. We haven't been able to say that.
I haven't been able to say that, and that's not a knock on the previous quarterback. He's kind of playing out of position and trying to – I think coach is trying to give Tazewell the best opportunity to win with an athletic quarterback. No knock on the quarterback there, Tazewell. But there was some efficiency going on there. There were first downs, which is huge to keep the defensive side of the ball kind of on the sideline, the ones that aren't playing both ways. And when you're playing offense, you never feel like you're getting tired.
Right.
Because as you pick up that next first down, you pick up 5 more yards, that momentum starts to roll, and then that can carry over into the defense. So I'll say that Tazewell showed some signs of life. Tazewell's defense is really, I think, really good. I really think that there's an opportunity here Friday night. Grundy's offense is really bad. Now, they put up points against Twin Valley in their only win, but I don't think that Grundy's offense is going to do the same to Tazewell as they did to Twin Valley. Grundy's defense is also terrible. They've given up tons of points. So this is a chance for Tazewell to go out, get into the win column. On paper, both of these teams look very similar. If you look at scores and averages per game, they look very similar, but they aren't. Tazewell 28, Grundy 6.
Yeah, and back to the thing about the quarterback. The guy we have now playing quarterback, Ty, that's where he's been playing. He's kind of comfortable there. Walker's not comfortable at quarterback at all. He was just being a team player, playing that position. He got put beside Ty at running back, and it's a total different feel for him. He looks really good at running back, so not a knock on that kid at all. It's just not his position.
Right.
And he was trying to be a team player, so we appreciate it 100%. But Ty did go out there and played pretty well as a freshman at quarterback. I think there's somebody we know might be helping that kid, but who knows? Move on.
Let's see.
But with all that being said, you got to give, as you say, Legion Field, Gate City gets 7 points. Well, when Tazewell goes to Grundy, Grundy automatically gets 7 points, whether we're a state championship team or not. Grundy's going to put up a fight for a little while. With that being said, you said most of it in this. I like the Dogs in this one, 24-17.
Yeah, this is a game that Tazewell can get into the win column and kind of maybe get a few things going in the right direction with some winnable football games down the stretch. And when you look at 2A Region D, I don't know who picks up that 8th spot right now. It's kind of still up in the air with about 4 or 5 teams that can go from 7 to 12 pretty quick.
Right.
So we'll see what things look like down the road. But this is a chance for Tazewell to kind of get into the mix and take a step in the right direction.
So now let's head to our crossover games, because that's where we're at, unlike last week. With our crossover games, remember, attorney at law, Andrew Scruggs, Bluefield, Virginia. He'll help you with your criminal needs. This game's not going to be criminal at all. I just don't know what it's going to look like. You have the Marion Scarlet Hurricane, who are 0-5, traveling to Ben-Hur to take on Lee, who is 1-4. And if you notice, we said Lee's 1-4. That means Rye Cove took care of business last week against the Generals. Marion, they can't get anything going, man. I mean, Graham, as we said at the beginning, 35-0 in the first quarter. That game ended up being 56-0. They could have hung 90 on them if they just kept going. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't get a first down. it was pretty rough for the Scarlet Hurricane last Saturday. And as you can see, 0-5, they've not been able to move the ball much at all. On the other hand, Lee, we know Lee, and Lee's going to do what Lee does best. They take somebody that's down or below them, and they're going to beat them. That's what they're known to do, and they're good at doing it. But if Marion was on the same playing field, this would be a really good ball game. And it's not. So I like the 5-star Generals in this one to win it 35-7.
Oh, okay. So Marion's going to make the long trek over to Ben-Hur. Thank you for saying Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
It's Ben-Hur. And they're 5-star Generals. So I guess there's something to be said for Ben-Hur. That's a long trip. It's pretty interesting to know that Marion and Lee worked a schedule out where they are playing each other, because that is a really long drive for both teams traveling. Lee's coming off a tough but predicted loss to Rye Cove, and there's no shame in getting beat by Rye Cove. Let's be honest.
No.
Rye Cove is one of the better teams in Southwest Virginia. Now, I don't think that if we put Rye Cove up against the Gate City, or we put Rye Cove up against Union or the Ridge or Lebanon or someone like that, I think we're picking those other teams. But Rye Cove, if they were 2A, they're definitely a 4 seed, 5 seed.
Agree.
And they're definitely a team that would sneak up on you and beat you if you weren't careful. So there's no shame in what happened at Rye Cove. In fact, there was a lot building towards Rye Cove winning that football game. I mean, there was an opportunity for them to win that game last year in Ben-Hur.
Right.
So, the fact that Lee didn't pull that victory off is not surprising. So, Rye Cove scored a lot of points. Lee gives up a lot of points. Lee can't really put the ball into the end zone to get more than about 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
They're stuck in that teen points per game area.
Yep.
And insert Marion. I think Marion is the perfect opportunity for Lee to get on the right track. They're 1-4, moving to 2-4, and this is the best opportunity. I mean, Marion, outside of one game, they can't score more than about 10 points. So, plus Marion over the last 3 games has been outscored 150-35.
Oh,
they're giving up 50 points a game. It's going to be a long trip down to Ben-Hur and an even longer trip back. Lee 38, Marion 12.
And now we have another long game. It's not a long game, but it's a pretty good drive. You have the Richlands Blue Tornado, who will be fed barbecue. I have to throw that little, I know who's feeding them. They're feeding them barbecue at 2 o'clock to travel to Y Central to take on the Warriors. Now, Richlands is 3-3. I forgot to say that. Wise is 1-4.
Yeah, so outside of a win against Marion, that's all Wise can talk about.
Right.
So struggling Central is going to host Richlands, where these two teams are basically heading in 2 opposite directions. I mean, when you look at where both of these teams were 2 years ago and even last year, they're like side by side with competing and trying to get 1, maybe 2 wins. And now you see Richlands, and we've talked about this, Richlands, their 3-3 is a
good
kind of
3-3
that's
team.
A good 3-3 football team. Central's 1-4 is not a good 1-4.
No.
To hang your hat on a win at Marion 19-7 is not something that you can necessarily say, hey, we got a shot at the playoffs with this one. Right? So Richlands got the bad taste out of their mouth from Lebanon. And listen, there were some classy things that went on there with Richlands and Grundy. They won 35-0. Richlands could have scored at will last week, but they decided not to. That was the last time that Richlands and Grundy were going to play as Richlands and Grundy. Now Grundy's combining, and they're going to be South Gap, so they're going to be district foes all over again.
Right.
So that rivalry will be renewed, much like our game of the week. But Richlands had the opportunity to kind of play a lot of kids, get going in the right direction. This is another opportunity to do that, to get above 500, and really just get things back on track and going in the right direction. So Wise continues to struggle. They can't score points to save their life. And outside of 27 points that they scored against John Battle, they can't score out of the teens. And they lost that game to Battle. Now, of course, they beat Marion, but they only scored 19 points. Richlands is going to score early, score often, and maybe call the dogs off. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be stormy and Wise. Richlands 33, Central 14.
So Richlands is going to win this game, not to beat a dead horse. You got 33-14. I didn't want to pick a normal score. I picked 32-8. So
32-8, 33-14.
Now, this one's not going to be a game. It should have been better as the game of the week, but it was up to halftime. But Gate City is going to take out a little bit of revenge on John Battle as they travel to Bristol. 4-2, Gate City takes on 1-4 Battle.
Okay, so you can blame us for the loss last week, Gate City, as we both chose you. And just like on College Game Day, when they across the board choose everyone, they tend to be wrong. And we were wrong, and I'm willing to admit that. I am married, so I admit being wrong all the time, whether I am or not. Don't worry, my wife only watches the show. She doesn't listen to it. The difference in that game for Gate City last week is they didn't score early. And they were kind of behind the 8 ball, and you could feel the pressure and the momentum kind of rolling against them. And that's kind of what we talked about, and I'll talk about that a little bit more with Union. But this is going to be frustration relieved for Gate City. Battle has been extremely disappointing. They get a big win at Central after playing well against Holston, and then just get crushed by PH. And then they go in and they actually played okay for a quarter against Lebanon, which was also weird because Richlands couldn't.
Right.
Maybe Lebanon kind of let up, but Lebanon did what Lebanon does and scores a ton of points in the second half. But other than that, Battle can't stop a nosebleed. They also can't put it in the end zone. That's a bad recipe going up against Gate City, who can score points, and if given the opportunity, will not let up on the defensive side of the football. I think the city gets back to their winning ways. Big 40. John S. Battle, 14.
Poor Battle. I mean, when you sit here and you look at this, we thought Lee, Wise, or Battle could be the teams fighting for that 8th position. Tazewell coming in right now has a chance to take out Grundy, and then next week has a chance to beat Marion, a 2-8 Bulldog team. I'm just saying, I don't know if they'll be 2-8. It could be 3-7, but a 2-8 Bulldog team could make the playoffs at the 8th seed, and we didn't know we could be saying that until week 7. But as we said, things change. Battle normally has a chance to get there. Don't think that's going to happen this time. Gate City 45, Battle nothing. There's a baby being stolen as we speak.
there was a baby being stolen.
So I'm going to throw Josh for a loop. As I was checking something, we're going to give you 2 games of the week. Didn't know that was going to happen, but we're going to give you 2 games of the week. So
I'm prepared. Don't worry. I'm prepared for the extra game of the week.
Yes. So, game of the week brought to you by Old Town Barbershop. I don't know what we're going to pick here. I feel like I know how we're going to pick this. The Ridgeview Wolfpack at 5-0 will travel to Bullitt Park to take on the Union Bears, who are 6-0. This could be the tightest game that they've had in quite some time. Ridgeview with a pocket passer instead of somebody that can scramble. He really doesn't run well, and he wants to throw it on you, and he does a good job at it. They've got a running game that goes with it. Then you got the Union Bears, who have been working on their passing game, and it seemed to come alive in the second half against Gate City with the run game that we know is there as well. So, Josh, who you got?
All right, so for the second straight week, the game of the week is hosted by Union. This time it's to renew an old LPD, Lonesome Pine District rival in Ridgeview, which is consolidated with Clintwood and Irvington and Hayside. So old school Powell Valley with the powder blue and the red will team up with the yellow and blue of Appalachia to take on the green and white of Clintwood and the red and white of Hayside.
Go green and white.
Well, it's funny because when you go to a Union football game, there's plenty of yellow and blue in the stands because the old Appalachia faithful, they still wear their Appalachia stuff. They don't give it up. They still got their Bulldogs and everything. But this is old school LPD, and if there's an opportunity to go to this game, to be at Bullitt Park with everything on the line. I mean, this is everything on the line for this. Outside of being in the playoffs, it doesn't get bigger than this. Two incredible football teams that have been on a collision course all year, and they've played the part that they're supposed to play, right?
Yes.
Ridgeview, they haven't necessarily been tested like Union has, but they've looked the part. They beat who they need to beat, and they beat them the way they're supposed to beat them.
Yes.
And Union, for the most part, up until realistically last week against Gate City, had only been tested once with a trip to Tazewell to play Graham, even though Graham is not the same Graham, and they weren't the same Graham early in the season.
No, they're different.
So both of these offenses are extremely efficient and very potent, but don't sleep on the defenses either. The Ridge is averaging 48.4 points per game and only giving up 7.4 points a game. Not to be outdone, Union is averaging 47.2 points per game and only giving up 9 points per game. So you really can't, you've got to get deep into the statistical analysis to find discrepancies and differences between these two teams. They look exactly the same on the field and on paper, realistically. As high scoring as the offenses are, this game tends to be very low scoring and extremely defensive.
Yes.
So over the past few years, these two teams have met multiple times, and it's been close. 12-0 was a score, or 21-14. There was one of the scores was Ridgeview had a lead going into halftime, ends up getting shut out in the second half and losing by a touchdown. So my keys to victory are very simple and a lot like last week, but a little bit different. Early points, early points, early points. Ridgeview needs to avoid Union scoring early. Union scores early against Gate City, puts the pressure on Gate City, and allows the lights and those, the pressure of the moment get to them. And you could see that momentum as Gate City was pretty tight early on, and Union just kind of stays the course and does what they've done for the past 3, 4, 5 years. The second key to victory is stay on schedule for both teams. And when I say stay on schedule with the chains. So when you've got the ball, you need to stay ahead of the chains. You can't give up a sack on first down. You've got to be positive and moving forward every single play. And you also have to stay on schedule on the scoreboard too. Like I said, early points. Whoever gets those early points, there has to be a response to that. If at first the game or breaks go against you, General Nealon said, put on more steam. The third key to victory for both teams is solid defense. You have to tackle. So a lot of times everyone's like, we got to get off the field on third down. Well, you also have to put the offense in unmanageable third downs to help your defense. So that means winning on first and second down. So tackling on first and second down, especially for Ridgeview, because for the most part, Union's going to try to stay ahead of the chains, stay on schedule, and hand that ball off and get 2, 3, 4 yards a pop early on. If they can get to third and 2 or 3, it's really hard to stop Union. So when Ridgeview has the opportunity to make a tackle in the backfield, they need to make that tackle. They can't be missing tackles, and they have to play solid on the back end. They can't give Union the opportunity to throw the ball over the top, because that's not something that Union does.
Right.
We've talked about it, that they're a work in progress on the passing side of the football. Now, they looked really good last Friday night against Gate City, but it's still a work in progress. Mm-hmm. So don't give them easy scores over the top by being lackadaisical and losing, eye discipline on the back end. You have to tackle and have great, solid defense in that shell on the back end. So what do you do? What do you do with two teams that look identical on the football field, player-wise, and identical on paper? Last week, what did Union do? They did exactly what I said they needed to do in order to win. But I don't feel like the Ridge has built up to this opportunity just to let it go. I feel like the Ridge has slowly but surely kind of built momentum towards this moment. Both of them are hitting on all cylinders. And like we said, the collision course is set. Last week I said, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. The Ridge 24, Union 34.
So
write that one down.
I'm glad he didn't pick Ridgeview, because as you know, I like Ridgeview. I really liked the interview I had with the Ridgeview coach. He's a hard-nosed, tough playing, just wants to hit you in the mouth 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and he's happy. Fans aren't, because they don't like that. It's not flashy, but that's what he wants to do. And Union, on the other hand, they don't mind to do that, but they don't mind to be flashy as well. Last year I picked Ridgeview twice, and both times that was a mistake. I like Ridgeview, though. I really do, and I want to pull a Lee Corso and not so fast. I don't think that's going to be the case, because I think if it gets down to the knit and grit, Chandler gets the ball, and we all know what he does. He just runs it down your throat, and he moves the pile. I just want to say, before I make my pick, putting Bullitt Park on upset alert again, because last week at halftime it was 14-14. So if Ridgeview has enough steam to go into the second half and fight like dogs, because they're a Wolfpack, then maybe they come out with a win for the first time. But remember, this is regular season, and normally Union gets Graham in the regular season, and then Graham gets them in the playoffs. Just keep that in mind.
So is that what you're building towards?
I want to pick Ridgeview so bad, but I'm not. I'm taking the Union Bears in this one, 28-24. It's a little closer than we want it to be. So now, as I told you, there's another game of the week.
Hold on. Before we get to that one.
All right.
28-24. Both of us picked them to score more points than what they normally score against each other whatsoever.
Right.
So either we should go with the historical averages or we're going to go with the outlier and say those averages are going to eventually average out.
Yes.
And we're going to get some high-scoring football. I think that's what happens this Friday night. I mean, even Gate City scored 21 points, and I think that Ridgeview's offense is a little more potent than Gate City's. I think Gate City's more of a defensive-minded team, which may not be great for Ridgeview, given the fact that Union scored that much. But yeah, be interesting to see how many points are actually scored total, because we're taking the over.
Yes.
We're taking the over in this.
And this game in the playoffs last year come down to a Hail Mary, because there was like a penalty that backed them up, and it was a Hail Mary on 4th down, and Ridgeview didn't convert. So remember that. Now let's move into single A, where the Eastside Trojans, undefeated, go to Rye Cove to take on the undefeated Eagles. Can Eastside upset Rye Cove?
Eastside can upset Rye Cove. They're a good enough football team. The problem with this game is Eastside's going to have to travel down to Rye Cove. And just the fact that all the pressure is going to be on Eastside. I mean, Rye Cove beat them. Rye Cove last year had the best football team in the history of Rye Cove High School. So, how do you top being the best? You don't have to.
I think they're on track to do it.
They're on track to do it. I mean, they beat Lee, which is avenging a loss from last year.
And when you say beat Lee, we didn't give the score. It was 47-13.
Right. They beat them to death. And they scored the way they've scored all year long.
Yes.
Eastside does score points, and they're pretty good defensively. But you're going to have to keep pace with an Eagles team that just constantly shoving the ball down your throat, down the field. They're picking up chunk yards, and just like keys to the game for Ridgeview and Union, Eastside's going to have to be solid on the back end, and they're going to have to be opportunistic on 1st and 2nd down. If they're not, they're going to have to keep pace offensively, and I just don't see where Eastside can score enough points if they can't stop Rye Cove. They're going to have to rely on their defense. And if that doesn't work out, Plan B's tough.
Right.
Plus, you're going down to Rye Cove, where Eastside did not play well last year. So, I didn't have a score written down, but I've got a score in mind. I like Rye Cove 47, Eastside 34.
So there you go. Normally this would be my fill-in after we get through everything. I think that'd be a fantastic game to watch if you have NFHS and you don't make it to the game, or you can flip between the Union Ridgeview and Rye Cove Eastside. With all that being said, what's going on with Hidden Valley?
So Hidden Valley is playing Blacksburg this weekend, and Hidden Valley is giving up 53.7 points per game. After a semi-competitive first week score against Ann River, where they lost 37-7. It is competitive, given the fact that last year they were outscored in the first 3 games almost 200-0.
Well, the first game they had 90 points put on them.
Right. So 37-7 is competitive. After that, they've been outscored like 200-10, and now they're going to go to Blacksburg and play Blacksburg, a 4A football team that they're used to playing. And Blacksburg's a little bit better than they have been, but they're not great.
Right.
But last year Blacksburg wasn't great, and Blacksburg destroyed Hidden Valley. I think Hidden Valley's a little bit better, but it's not going to be pretty. Blacksburg's going to win this one pretty solidly, and the misery for the Hidden Valley Titans will continue. So.
All right, so before we wrap it up, where are you eating at on Friday?
On Friday?
Yep.
Well, for lunch, I'm going to be at Rotary. because I'm a Rotarian and I go to the Rotary Club of Tazewell, and we have a great meeting every Friday at the American Legion building. So I'll be eating lunch there, but I'm going to be picking up some food to take to a former quarterback by the name of TJ Kitts, who is in Blacksburg, and we're going to be heading to Blacksburg. But I'm going to pick up some Happy Goat because he wanted some Happy Goat, and I was like, I'd be happy to pick up Happy Goat. Nothing makes me happier.
What are you getting here?
Spicy Italian.
Okay.
And I'm going to get a Reuben, and then we're gonna get a few other things. My daughter loves the PB&J, and they cut the crust off for her. It's a custom order.
That's right.
And every time that we call it in, I don't even have to tell them anymore. But they cut the crust off. But I will be enjoying some Happy Goat on Friday.
So Norton is near Ridgeview, right?
Norton
is
no.
Wise.
Yeah,
right?
that's Wise.
So I was making sure before I said it. If you're going to the Richlands Wise game and they have the food trucks out, go to Engine 343, which is a wood fire pizza. Get that. It was amazing. They had it here in Tazewell over the weekend. That's a great food truck. So if you see it while you're going down there, while the boys eat barbecue, get you a pizza. But for me,
Woolly Burger.
I'm not going to Grundy. I apologize. I'm not going to Grundy.
Oh man, if you did, you know where you should go eat? Peking.
I don't eat Chinese.
Yeah, well, you would if you ate Peking.
If there was a Pizza Hut there, I'm probably going to choose it. But
there's a good Mexican
worse.
restaurant down there too.
I've heard about that. I haven't had it.
It's there in the Walmart center.
But here in Tazewell, my daughter's been asking for Be Noodled, so we're probably going to end up Be Noodled, which is last year's sponsor, if you don't remember. So go check out Be Noodled. Great food there as well. Anything before we go? We good?
If you're going to the Ridgeview game for our game of the week,
Wood Booger?
no, go to Sugar Hill.
Oh, Sugar Hill, yeah.
In St. Paul.
That's a sponsor on their video portion of the NFHS.
Good beer and barbecue.
So there you go. I want to try it. So hopefully we get that way. But with all of that being said, as we always wrap it up, as the Barter Theater says, if you like us, talk about us. If you don't, then keep your mouth shut. And tonight, go Flames as we take on UTEP.
Go Vols.